In early Buddhism, there's a big emphasis on the notion of what's called udayabhaya in practice. So aya means to go. Ut is up, and vi is away. So udaya is arising, something udaya, it rises up. And then vyaya is passing. So you've probably heard of arising and passing as a stage that people go through in their practice, where the perception is dominated by a sense of coming and going. So when you begin your practice, you're just all over the map. You remember that? Sometimes it's still like that. For me too. You're just all over the map. We'll talk a little bit more about all over the map a little later. But you're all over the map and you can't concentrate, and you long for the ability to concentrate and some sort of tranquility and ease. And then you actually start to experience more tranquility and ease, and your focus improves. And then things get sort of interesting, because now you have like a little secret thing that you can do anytime you want. You can taste samadhi rasa, zammai, the taste of being in a concentrated state, becomes available to you not only during practice, but also not only during formal practice, but also as you're sort of bopping around in the world. So that's really nice. And I can remember when that started to come on for me. And it's like, wow, I got this secret thing that I can do now anytime in the day. So it's like I'll never waste any time again. Either what I'm doing is intrinsically meaningful for me, or I'm forced to do something that's meaningless, like wait in line, or be uncomfortable, like I'm sick or something. And those times that would have been like really crappy, at best banal, maybe uncomfortable, now these are my secret times, because I can use them to cultivate and deepen this taste of concentration. So that's a nice stage, and really starts to change the way that you think about things. Like Don Juan in the Carlos Castaneda book said, most people think of the day in terms of fortune and misfortune, but a person who is on a path to being able to see, S-E-E, thinks of the day in terms of a sequence of challenges. So I can remember this really nice stage when the day became just a sequence of, okay, can I do this and still taste a little bit of concentration? Can I do this more complicated thing and still taste a little bit of concentration? So that's nice. Then you're able to use that concentration if you're doing a sort of deconstructive, classic mindfulness approach to things. You're able to untangle the strands of self. Now, in early Buddhism, the self is analyzed into components in a number of different ways. But the 5 aggregates, you can look it up on Wikipedia if you want, the 5 skandhas, are sort of the classic deconstruction of the somethingness of selfhood. And the idea is, okay, if you can untangle and unblock these, then you will see that there is no thing inside you called a self. So in my case, I have applied Occam's razor, which says, well, do things as simply as you can. And what I found is that you just need 3 elements to get a core sense of I amness, mental image, mental talk, and body emotion as a system. And sure enough, if you are able to untangle those, you start to get some liberation from the sense of self as a separate, suffering, limited entity. So that's nice. You bring sensory clarity now to the picture, and you're sort of untangling. And that's quite liberating. But then at an even deeper level, things simplify further. You get a sense that everything is just arising and passing, arising and passing. And that's true for your inner sense of self, but it's also true even for the sights, sounds, and physical touches that would constitute the perception of an external world. And in fact, the distinction between inside and outside breaks down during when you're in a situation of arising and passing. So everything gets really, really simplified. There's just this constant rhythm of things rising up, things passing away, rising up, passing away. And as that is happening, you get a sense that each of these sort of arising and passing moments is accompanied by a taste of purification. This is really hard to put into words. So it's like, as it's arising, it's sort of like vibrating and arising, and you get the sense that the something-ness of that experience is sort of dissipating. In fact, sometimes I get, now this is just a mental image, right? It's just, what I'm about to describe is just a representation that happens in my image space. And you might not have this same representation, but just to like sort of share, I get this sense that each inner or outer see, hear, feel, big or small, whatever it is, it's sort of like this bubble that rises up and then passes away, arising, passing, and it's vibrating as it's arising and it's vibrating as it's passing. And I get in image space this image of like this black smoke is coming out of it and sort of like dissipating in all directions. And that black smoke is the something-ness of that sensory event. The something-ness of it is being released and freeing up the pure doingness of it. And it actually is becoming transparent, like you can see through it. The color of the modalities, visual, auditory, somatic, or the color of pleasant versus unpleasant, or mind versus body, any sort of quality that would, quote, color that experience is like being dissipated, as this sort of, the black smoke would sort of represent the opacity or the thingness of that experience, and it's like dissipating. Now, once again, this is just an image, a representation in my image space of a taste of something. And what it's the taste of is that sensory experience is becoming transparent. It's losing its something-ness. Actually, there's what they call the the three Vimokshas. This is a technical term. You can look it up. It's sort of interesting. It's not a commonly used set of categories in Buddhism, but it is traditional. And they're called Vimokshadwara, the three gates of liberation that you go through to get free from the something-ness of self and world. The coagulation of self and world into a suffering thing. There are these three Vimokshadwaras, or gates of liberation. And that's why temples in Japan, Buddhist temples, monasteries, the first thing you encounter when you approach is like a three-gate situation. And it's supposed to remind you of these three gates of liberation. Anyway, one of the gates of liberation is emptiness, shunyata. Another one is animitta, which means without somethingness, or without, a better translation, without essence, essenceless. Now, essenceless sounds sort of bad, okay? But it means without any limiting quality. And then the last one is very interesting, the apranidhana, which means effortlessness. So everything in the world is vacuous, essenceless, and just occurs spontaneously. Now, I know those words don't sound very appealing, but actually it's just bliss city when you start to have these experiences. So I can actually sort of get the sense that the essence or the thingness is dissipating, and the experience it's almost like it's becoming transparent. Self and world are becoming transparent. And sure enough, also there is a kind of delicious spontaneity or effortless, will-less, just happeningness in the arisings and passings. So that's the three gates of liberation that you pass through, the Vimokshadwara, to realize what? To realize nirvana. So all of this that I'm describing is a consequence of clarity and equanimity. So everything simplifies to this theme of arising and passing, arising and passing. And even if you're going through something excruciating in the body, even if you're going through something confusing in the mind, the flavor of excruciation or the flavor of confusion are sort of like being dissipated, and they're being replaced by this one flavor, this eka rasa, which is the taste of freedom. So this is sort of the classic description of A and P. Some Western teachers call it A and P, like my friend Kenneth Folk. Arising and passing. It's an important stage. Now, the way I like to approach things is that if you do enough practice, this experience that I'm describing becomes available anytime you want. It's not like something that's rare, happens occasionally, or it's like a special thing that happens on a retreat. You want to move in the direction that, but any time during the day, you can just go into what I just described. And for some people that comes on more quickly in their practice. For some people it takes a little bit longer. But we're in this for the long haul. My stock phrase, I'm not going to promise you something that is necessarily a quick fix, but I do promise you a deep fix. But we're engaged in a householder's practice here. We're not locked in a cave in Tibet or in the forests of Southeast Asia, or doing like samurai boot camp training in Japan in a Zen temple. We're bopping around living North American lives. And so we sort of have to amortize our ego death over long periods of time. You could think of it as a kinder, gentler form of ego death, as opposed to, say, Zen, where, oh my God, some of you know, basically they just pull the rug out from under you. It's impossible to get comfortable. It is simply impossible. The day is just a sequence of physical, mental, and conceptual assaults on your being. when Kurushimi no Renzoku is one way I've heard it described, an endless sequence of miseries. Some of you speak Japanese. Kurushimi no Renzoku. At the beginning, that's what it is. So that what are you going to do? Okay, well, you either leave, or you're driven into the only place of relief, which is this arising, passing thing. And that, yes, that can happen fairly quickly under those severe monastic training situations. But we're not in that, so we've made a different choice. We want the kinder, gentler version. So, okay, fine. I'm not saying that what I just described to you will necessarily happen in the first year or even the first 5 years of your practice, but time will happen, time will pass. You might be saying, yeah, but I'm old, so I don't have a lot of time. Well, you know what I'm going to say with respect to that. The aging process can be an ally to liberation. It's sort of a natural pointing towards no self. So one way or another, we've got time.